Fallout 4 starts with an unusual idea for this series. It's not about saving the world or even revenge, it's about family. Specifically, your family, who you spend roughly 5 minutes with before the game expects you to be emotionally devastated. You're a desperate parent fighting through a broken world to get back to your baby boy. And for a few hours, it works. Then Fallout 4 starts to lose track of time. Time to care about your spouse, time to care about Shaun, and time to make choices that actually matter. Because instead,
another settlement has sent word that they need our help.
Fallout 4's story isn't bad. It's just unfinished in all the places that matter. Okay, so like literally every other mainline Fallout game, the game starts with Ron Perlman saying, "War never changes." Wait, who's this guy? So we all know this by now, but for the first time ever, the player character actually has a voice and a set background. The male option, voiced by Brian T. Delaney, is a war veteran, and we see him narrating about his time in the army and the state of the pre-war world over some great looking CGI and live action footage. For about a decade, this was the closest thing we got to seeing power armor in live action. It's obviously a very different kind of intro, but effective all the same, being very cinematic and setting the tone well. For the next 5 or so minutes, we kind of just look around our house for a bit, talk to this dude to set our special stats, rush over to the vault right as a nuke goes off, we'd definitely be dead by the way, watch our spouse die and our baby get taken and get future armoured into 200 years into the future. Look, I know I sped through that really quickly, but to be honest, that's kind of how it feels in the game too. The whole premise of the game's plot is that you go so far, engage with so many factions, so you can get your child back and avenge your dead spouse. The problem is though, is that you only spend 20 minutes with them at most, making bland small talk at the start of the 30-hour main story. It's even worse for Shaun because you spend even less time with him, he can't talk because he's a baby, and quite frankly his model is fucking terrifying. Wow, Bethesda's face models really haven't gotten any better over the past 10 years, have they? You just don't care, so there's an immediate separation between you the player and the sole survivor. At this point you're just going through the motions just to get to the good stuff. That and as well, things are surprisingly less urgent than they were in Fallout 3. In that game, you're tailing right behind what your father's doing, giving the sense that you've only just missed him, making you want to push through the main story even more. It feels like for the whole first act, your father is in immediate danger, so you want to go and help him as quickly as you can. In Fallout 4 though, we already spend far less time with your son than the almost hour you get with your father in Fallout 3, so we as players just don't get anywhere near as attached to them. Well, after you leave the vault, we spend some time chatting with our robot butler Codsworth,
Mr. Cock,
and we get directed to Concord as we get introduced to the Minutemen. Or Minuteman, I guess, since Mr. Settlements over here is the only one left. Essentially, the Minutemen are a militia force hell-bent on protecting local settlements.
Another settlement has sent word that they need our help.
No! Not yet. Effectively, they're kinda like Boston's NCR, but just the military portion of it, and somehow even more incompetent. We out-pressed on the boys out for a bit in one of the single worst segments in Fallout history. Go check out my last video where I complain about it much more. And we are pointed towards Diamond City, the largest settlement in the area where we'll likely find out more about Shaun. I don't entirely know why, but the Magic Stoner lady told me to, so I'm just going to do what she says. As we enter Diamond City, we get to enjoy the perfect example of Bethesda jank, with Piper's expressive body language and emotionless face,
16 times the detail.
as we start to hear our first rumblings of a mysterious institute that kidnaps and replaces people. The game hasn't outright said it yet, but it seems completely desperate to shove it down your throats that the Institute is where Shaun is, by them clearly being the game's big bad. Bonus points for it not just being the Enclave for the 3rd time though. And with them being brought up pretty much every time your missing son is mentioned. From here, we do a bit of a zigzag, going from Valentine's Detective Agency to Vault 114 to rescue the detective himself, back to Diamond City and the agency, and then back out to the wasteland to track your wife's killer, Kellogg. In most games this wouldn't really be a problem, but this is a Bethesda game, so pretty much every door and location is locked behind a 20-second loading screen, so it ends up feeling about 50% longer than it actually is. And while we're here, I'm just gonna say it. Nick Valentine is the single best character in this entire game. Him just being a robot makes him 50% cooler, but he's fully embraced being a classic 40s style detective, really adding to Fallout's retro-futuristic style in a great way. He's got a genuinely fascinating backstory with him being a synth that he claims was discarded from the Institute, and he actually adds depth to the story. Up until this point, all we've heard about the synths is that they're drones that the Institute replaces people with. By having the first one most players will encounter be a charismatic and genuinely good person, the game already shows the player that the synths are more than what the terrified and paranoid people of the Commonwealth are making them out to be. Honestly, Nick Valentine does a better job of pushing the Railroad's agenda than the actual Railroad does. So anyway, we track Kellogg to Fort Hagen by following his trail of cigars and beer bottles. Ah yes, this elite tier mercenary that the Institute hires to do their most important jobs would obviously leave a convenient trail for one of his many enemies to track him down. I can't even defend this. This is just fucking stupid. And we tussle with the serial man right after he confirms that Shaun is in fact in the Institute. Oh my god, no freaking way! The game didn't just basically tell us that the second we got to Diamond City.
People of the Commonwealth, our intentions are peaceful. We are the Brotherhood of Steel.
Oh yeah, the Brotherhood are here now. Well, they're the only faction you don't have to interact with to get through the main story, so we'll just skip past them for now. Anyway, so after this shocking revelation, we make our way to the game's only other major town, Goodneighbor, as we watch a step-by-step reenactment of what it's like to enter London. We all actually have to go through this before we get our certified British card. And after questioning our life choices for a bit, we make our way to the lab, I think, of Dr. Amari, as we use a piece of Kellogg's brain to relive some of his memories and find a way inside the Institute. This is actually really cool, as it lets us hop back into those VR pods from Fallout 3, some of the coolest tech from Bethesda Fallout. What's most important though is that we get to see a now 10-year-old Shaun and that the Institute uses teleportation to get in and out. Why do the Corsair risk getting spotted by the whole of Diamond City by teleporting outside of Kellogg's house and walking in? I don't know, I'm not a synth, he must have had a few screws loose or something. From here, we make our way into the glowing sea, ground zero for Boston's nuclear blast, one of the most irradiated places in the entire series. I think the glow from Fallout 1 and that one town in New Vegas are the only other places that come close. This area is awesome. It's the only part of the game that actually manages to capture the spirit of classic Fallout, with the whole area covered in this thick, irradiated fog. Everything's extremely shadowy and oppressive here, which is something I think the rest of the game world desperately needed more of. But I digress. We're here so we can find an ex-Institute scientist hiding here to avoid being caught. Yes, an ex-Institute scientist hiding in the glowing sea because the radiation would protect him. Whose faction as a whole thing is using robots. Jesus Christ. I'm trying to throw this game a bone, I really am, but wow, the writers are making it hard. It doesn't have to be Shakespeare or anything, but at least make it make sense. So the Institute scientist Virgil, not that one, essentially sends you on a fetch quest to go through 50 different loading screens again, just so you can end up at the top of an old skyscraper and blow the head off an Institute Corsair. Virgil hypes up Corsairs as these guys even more dangerous than Kellogg, as some of the most fearsome combatants in the Commonwealth, but they're really not. They're just slightly tankier enemies. I know by this point in the game you're much higher level, but honestly the Kellogg fight is harder.
Corsairs are Institute synths, designed for one purpose. They're hunters. Operations go wrong, a synth goes missing, and a Corsair is dispatched. They're very good at what they do, and you're going to have to kill one. They're hunters.
So you get the MacGuffin chip and bullshit your way into getting the game's third faction, the Railroad, to decode it for you. Oh, the Railroad. For the sake of actually managing to get this video out on time, I'm going to have to save most of the faction stuff for a future video. Probably the next one, to be honest. But oh god, do I have a thing or two to say about the Railroad. But anyway, so the Jolly Green Giant here gives you the plan to create a teleportation device, and you pick whatever faction you like the most to build it with. I usually go with the Minutemen because Preston gives you a gold star every time you help a settlement, so let's go with them for now. So we finally made our way into the Institute, and we are minutes away from getting our son back, to getting to the very thing that's been driving the sole survivor this entire time. Something I'm sure you totally didn't forget about 2 minutes in. He's right there. Sure, a little older than we expected, but Kellogg said as much, but hey, who the hell's this guy? Oh, of course! While going through Kellogg's memories, he references the old man running the Institute around the time he kidnapped Shaun.
Guess the old man didn't want so many loose ends.
So, this must be him, right?
It's me. I am Shaun. I am your son.
What? This doesn't just make no sense, this is just stupid. Were the writers at Bethesda huffing paint when they wrote this? I know they think they made some huge reveal, but no! There aren't any subtle hints throughout the game implying that Shaun could be the head of the Institute at all. Hell, they do pretty much everything in their power to hammer down the complete opposite. Nick says that Kellogg was spotted with a 10-year-old kid, and we see that in his memories. So if 10-year-old Shaun was the synth this whole time, why on earth did they make Kellogg take care of him in Diamond City? What possible reason would the Institute have for risking something like that? So if this guy's Shaun, who the hell was the old man that Kellogg was talking about before? He's clearly just brought up to trick us into thinking Shaun was him for about 30 seconds. Speaking of, they go so far as to call Shaun, our son, father, for the first few minutes of us being in the Institute, only for Shaun to reveal himself 10 seconds later. So what was the point of that if it not just being unnecessarily confusing? This isn't some grand reveal, Bethesda, it's just stupid. So this is the point where the game splits into 4 depending on which faction you decide to go with. But again, it's not really, since the Minutemen don't have any quests until you antagonise the Institute, where you skip straight to the end of the game, and the Railroad literally just has you play through the Institute questline for most of it. So really, it only splits into 2. I would be mad, but Bethesda seems to stop caring by this point, so I guess I should too. From here you do some bullshit for whatever faction you pick. No matter how you get there, you always fight through the Institute, talk to Shaun for a bit before he dies, and use a fusion pulse charge to blow up the Institute's reactor, and you teleport into the top of a building where you watch the Institute blow up, and puts you through the same emotionally detached cutscene in each ending. God, what's the point of letting you pick the Minutemen and the Railroad if it basically just skips you straight to the exact same ending as the Brotherhood one? Besides it just giving you the illusion of choice. I don't care that Shaun died, because I've spent a grand total of 5 minutes with him the entire game. I've completely forgotten about my dead spouse at this point, and I don't feel that my choices have actually made an impact, because no matter what I do, the game always ends the same. Fallout 4 is a story with good ideas, but an unfinished execution of them. Playing from someone from before the war is genuinely interesting, and the idea of searching for your son is a clever inversion of what Fallout 3 did. The problem is that the game never gives you enough time to care. You don't get the space to build a relationship with your spouse, or with Shaun, so your motivations slowly drift away from those of the character you're supposed to be playing. Fallout 4 wants to be a story of mystery, drama and revelation, but it too often rushes past the moments that would give those ideas weight. It promises choice and consequence, but it rarely gives them the depth needed to feel meaningful. And it makes me sad. It makes me sad because Fallout was once a series known for taking its time, for using factions to explore real political ideas, for giving its characters room to breathe, and for treating its stories with patience and care. Not because Fallout 4's story is especially bad, but because it reminds you of what the series used to do so well. Fallout 4's story almost works. Thank you for watching.